Hi, I'm Andy. Welcome back to C# Puzzles, Puzzle 4. Let's look at the if-else conditional. You'll be using this your whole career. If this statement's true, do this. Else, do that. It's one of the basic building blocks. I had a colleague who was, we would call them fridges, a air conditioning technician. And he was kind of saying, oh, these computers, what's the point of them? They're never going to be able to fix an air conditioning unit. And I said, well, why not? And he goes, well, the compressor can fail, you need to replace it. The fan motor could fail, you need to replace it. You need to check the refrigerant to see if it's leaking. And I says, well, from a coding point of view, they're all just if statements. If the compressor test fails, do this. Fan motor, if the fan motor experiences this problem, do that. If the fan motor experiences this other problem, do that. Else, do this. Refrigerant, run refrigerant check. If refrigerant check equals false, do this. So the issue with the computer not being able to fix the air conditioner isn't the logic. It can do the logic, it just can't physically go there and replace everything, right? Not until we get robots. So you'll be able to break most puzzles, most work down into if statements. There can be better things to do than to use an if statement, but you'll be able to do it. Anyway, let's get started. Enough talking, let's get puzzling. Beginners Puzzle 4, if-else statements. This is probably the simplest form of logic, but you're going to be using it for your whole career. You'll never get away from if-else. Okay, so we can clone the main branch. The GitHub console, the GitHub repo link is in the description. Go to the drop-down menu and copy the URL from HTTPS. And the GitHub desktop, as usual, file clone repository. Go to the URL tab, paste it in there, make sure you're saving it where you want to save it. Give it a clone. And here we go. Here's the code. If you wanted to use the git terminal, this would be the commands. You'd need to download git separately to do this, but that should also allow you to clone the repo. Let's take a look. Now, if-else statements are, you're going to be chaining them together, you're going to be using them to validate user inputs, you're going to be using them just to do basic logic throughout your career. You're never going to get away from if-else statements, so let's take a look at some of these puzzles. Let it boot up. Okay. Example A, magic numbers. So one of the most important things you can sort of learn as a professional is you want to have anything that's a variable input in a separate file or in a separate section. This is why C# programs have things like app settings.json files. So you can put in anything that might change over the application's lifetime into that file. So you're not looking through all the code everywhere to make an edit to the code. So for example, this answer here, this is hard-coded as starting at 0. We might want to change this. We might want to change this to starting at 5. Not for this program, but if that was in the code here, you'd need to scroll down. If there's hundreds of lines of code, you'd need to find it, and then you'd miss some of them. So a simple thing to do for a beginner is just to put all the sort of variables that are hard-coded values right at the top of the function. That's the most basic way to do magic numbers, to avoid magic numbers anyway. It's just to put them at the start. As we go later on, you'll have your own file just full of these sort of things. Okay, so we're just introducing the if-else statement here. If number equals answer, so if the user's input equals 0, do this, else do that. So if it's not 0, this will run. If it's 0, this will run. Asking you to do a puzzle here. a silly joke, a silly dad joke, it looks like. Good luck with that one. Example B. Oh, great, nuclear war. Okay, so we've written quite a long program here. In fact, we've got if statements inside if statements. And it looks like we're going to try to nuke the secret Nazi moon base, or again the tax department. It's a hard choice. They're both as bad as each other. This is why you need more than one nuclear weapon, I guess. So we have an if statement here with another if statement inside of it. Now this will not run unless this condition's met. Okay? We also have else if. So it's not just if and else, it's if and else if. This is an example. So looking at this example, it's a long one. I kind of want you to kind of do this puzzle. And it's going to be a long one as well. There's going to be if statements instead of if statements. It's going to look something like this. Okay? Example C. Okay, enter a number between 1 and 100. And then we're introducing sort of null checks. Because the user's input, the user can input wrong stuff. And one of the easiest things to do is just to press enter. Now in C#, it will probably be this that will trigger from console readline, but it's always good just to check null. And this is a does not equal sign. So if input does not equal blank space and input does not equal null, then do all this, which would be the rest of your program. So many programs start off with this in the first line after getting any kind of user input. So again, you can sort of chain them together. The AND statement, you could also do an OR statement, but the logic here is important. If it's an OR statement, if the user enters blank space, well, it's not null, is it? So that kind of meets the true side of this statement, so that will run. Because if it's blank space, then it's not null. Blank space and null are not the same thing. And if it's null, then it's not blank space. So that's true. But if we put in the AND statement, both of them have to be true, which is what you want. This is a very easy logic error to make. And then I want you to write a number guesser program as the puzzle. Very simple. You've probably done something like this. Maybe even in high school sort of programming classes. Easy enough to do, have a go at it. We're kind of bringing in things like floats and ints and stuff. Have a go at it. I'll show you the answer in a second. And again, to do these puzzles, example A, example B and example C are running. To do puzzle A, you would uncomment puzzle A, maybe comment out the example. Go up here and remove the multi-line comment, and then this will run. Put it back the way it was, and I'll give you a quick demonstration of the examples so you can kind of see what they look like. So click run. There we go. How many Apple users does it take to change a light bulb? Let's say 5. Nah, the answer's 0. They just buy a new house without any windows. There we go. Dad jokes galore. Example B, nuclear missile launch program. Who are we going to nuke today, Mr. President? 1, the secret Nazi moon base, or 2, the tax department? Well, I'll do 1. I'll be a good boy. Okay, Space Hitler will be mad though. Do you confirm the launch to target the secret Nazi moon base? Enter yes or no. Yes. Bye bye Lunar Reich. Good. Enter a number between 1 and 100. 54. Enter. Fantastic. You can follow simple instructions. Sometimes these are just self-burns on my part because I wrote this. Because int number equals 0 was declared, so blah blah blah. So that's the programs demonstrated. Give them a go, guys. Just play about with it. There's going to be a lot of writing in this one as you kind of do your puzzle, but don't worry about it. Just play about with it. hope you had fun with those puzzles. As always, there is a solution branch here. You can click this and you can either clone it all, or you can go into the folder and look at program, and all the answers are there. Okay, let's take a look at the code. Example A, magic numbers, if statements. Looks fairly simple. Let's uncomment puzzle A, and we'll comment out example A. And let's take a look at this puzzle. Puzzle A, light bulbs. Write a program that asks how many dead hookers does it take to change a light bulb. If the user enters more than 7, display, yeah, got to be more than 7 because my basement is still dark. If user enter less 7, blah blah blah. If user enters exactly 7. Okay, so we need to learn greater than, less than signs as we go through this awful dad joke. Okay. Well, I guess we start off with our magic number section. So this will be configurable, so it can change. So we'll just call it answer, and 7 seems to be the magic number here. So we could always change that to 8 or 9 or whatever. And it's having a green squiggly line just now because it's not being used. Let's get the user's input. I've done this a million times by now. And we'll just copy and paste. Why am I writing out everything? And then we'll get the user's input as an integer, because we'll be comparing integer and integer. And I'll use convert. There we go. I'll just do console.readline in here. Okay, so that says got a question. Now we'll have an if statement. It's kind of starting us off here. Let's set up the structure of the statement first though. You need to learn about else if. And so if the number equals 7, it'll display in here the correct answer. If the user enters less than 7, or user enters more than 7's next, sorry, display this. So that would be the greater than symbol. And we're just comparing it to answer again. And then after that, it's if the user enters less than 7. So that will just be another else if statement. Yeah, okay, now you could stop there. That's basically everything covered, but I always put an else at the very end, even if it's not logically needed. And you can always write something like this. Okay, so this is sort of a very basic form of error catching. So if they don't enter a number that equals 7, or a number that's greater than a number that's less than, I know you're thinking, how's that possible? It is possible. So in which case this would run. And in real life, you wouldn't just have a console write line statement, you would have a logger in here. It would be logging errors to a database, errors to a cloud blob file, or maybe some code to recover the program. Maybe you have to run code to fix the database due to something you've done before the if statement ran. So always having an else at the very end as sort of an error catching thing can be useful. Anyway, let's complete this statement. And what did it say? If it equals, if it enters exactly 7, put that in. If it's greater than 7, copy this. And if it's less than 7, we'll do that. There we go. Make good use of your copy paste. I think that's probably it. I think that will probably work. Well, actually, the problem we've got now is this value is hard-coded, right? If I change this to 8, it's going to display 7. Okay, we could have typed 7 in here and 7 in here and 7 in here, and that would be correct. But if I change this to 8, I have to go and I have to change that to 8 and I have to change that to 8. So it's better to just use sort of variables for this. So if I leave that as 7, I've kind of given you a hint here by using the dollar sign. I want to use string interpolation to display whatever the answer is here, okay? So if that turns into, 9, that'll display 9, that'll display 9, that'll display 9, that'll be 9, that'll be 9, that'll be 9. So you see how we're using variables here, and we've got it hard-coded at the top. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Example B, the long nuclear missile launch program. Okay, let's comment out example B, and let's have a go at puzzle B. And again, if you've hard-coded values in here, don't worry about it. Most beginners don't learn this for quite a while. They will be typing hard-coded values into the if statement. So don't worry about it if you did that, as long as it worked. Okay, so puzzle B, forget about it. Write a program for an Italian pizza restaurant. Ask the customer if they would like a pizza, a calzone, or a lasagna. I love lasagnas. For all choices, ask them if they want a regular or a large option. Okay, print our order confirmation. If they enter a wrong choice, tell them Tony Soprano owns this place, so you better order something. The Sopranos, that was a good show. Bada bing, bada boom. If they do not choose any of the options, give them an error message. So that's kind of the else at the end there, isn't it? This is going to be a long one, I think. I think this is going to be a long one, guys. So we can kind of copy this and just modify it. A lot of typing here. Just make something up. I think it was North Jersey the Sopranos were in. Okay, let's ask them what they want. Let's give them some options. The first option was a pizza. Second option, a calzone. And there was a third option as well, wasn't there? Lasagna, my favourite. If I could spell right, that would be useful. Okay, and then just user enters their choice. We can probably grab this, this as well. And you see how we're reusing code here. We're reusing existing code that's already been written by the team in the example, and we're just modifying it. So the team's kind of already agreed in this structure. That's okay. This means we'll pass code review because they've already agreed that this is how you're supposed to do it. There's a million other ways you could do it, but this is the way in the example. This is the way the team's chosen. So we'll just start off with an if statement. You know, I don't really like the word target here. It's not a target, it's a choice or an order or a selection or something. So the first thing is to say, has the user chosen the option 1, and it is the double equal sign. So you can maybe read up on the difference between does equal, double equal and single equal. This is checking the reference value, this is making it equal to this. This is changing it, this is checking. It's probably the easiest way to think about this. Do a new line, keep everything nice and clean. So the next thing was, would they like a regular or a large? So this is going to be a kind of a question and then an if statement inside of an if statement, right? That's what they did up here. Oh, they've kind of yes, no, yeah. So you're going to have some questions and then you're going to have another if statement. Would you like a regular or a large? Now we kind of have to tell them what to input here. So, and I really want to type, you could just type in that for enter R for regular, but I've kind of shown you already how to escape question marks, so we'll redo that. Regular, R for regular, or yeah, L for large. And then just put a colon there to tell the user to input something. We get the input, now it will be a string because it's a R or an L. Meal size, I think is a good name for this. Console readline, okay, so inside here is going to be another if statement, an if statement inside of an if statement, and then we can just do this infinitely, I suppose. And because it's a string, we're checking, we don't just type in R, we type in R inside quotations because that, anything between two quotation marks is a string, so we want to check if it's a string. So if it's a regular, we just output some text. One large. One large pizza coming up, I guess, because choice 1 is pizza. Okay. But an else if next, because there's multiple choices here, isn't there? Copy and paste this. Copy and paste again. Oh, that's, sorry, I mistyped there, that should be regular. Trouble with copy and pasting, it makes everything the same, so it's really good for variable names, but you can forget stuff. And an else statement, because they might not type in R or L, okay, they might type in something else. So we can just display a basic error message. What did we say with the error message? Tony Soprano owns this place, so you better order something. If you like your kneecaps. Okay, now This is almost going to be the same thing for choice 2 and choice 3. It's going to be almost the same thing. So what we can do is we can do a lot of copying and pasting again. I can do that again. And then probably anything else at the bottom as a basic error check. So if choice equals 2 this time, and then we can do choice equals 3. And this is almost going to be exactly the same. Now, as I'm copying and pasting here, this is a very beginner thing to do. You see how bulky and large this program is, and we're copying and pasting the same code. You see in later puzzles, you don't really want to do this. There's an acronym called DRY, D-R-Y. I'll type it out here. And it stands for don't repeat yourself. And we're repeating ourselves here. We're going to edit this so that it does the calzone and the lasagna instead of the pizza. But we're repeating the code. The reason is if we want to change the structure of this, we have to copy and paste it everywhere, and then we'll forget, especially if it's a large program. So this is okay just now. This is how I want you to do it just now. But just be aware that if you see something like this, it really shouldn't look like this. Okay? So choice number 2 was the calzone. Calzone, calzone. And that's basically it, isn't it? They'll only have to change calzone. I'll get rid of the capital letter. Choice 3 is going to be almost the same again, isn't it? Except it's going to be lasagna. And also in this example, we're just displaying text. I'm just trying to show you if statements, else if statements, and how you can structure them inside. But you can imagine if this was a real program or a website or something, there would be multiple stuff in here. With things like calculating order value, adding stuff to a shopping cart. But it would look very similar to this structure. There would just be a lot more inside each one of these statements, right? And we can sort of do some basic error catching here. Okay, we can, oh, don't know where the string came from. So I think that would probably do. I think that meets all the requirements. It's a very long program, but I believe that would be okay. Reusing the same variable. You see how we're reusing the same variable. It's good enough. It's good enough for a beginner. We could do better with this. Okay, example C. Let's take a look at this. Okay, so entering a number between 1 and 100, blah, blah, blah. It's got greater than or equal to. So if it's greater than or equal to 1 or less than or equal to 100, it's got the AND statement. Okay. Let's look at the puzzle. Let's comment out example C and do puzzle C. Puzzle C, number guesser. Write a program that asks the user to guess a number. Display what number am I thinking of. It's between 1 and 10. Generate a random number between 1 and 10. So we've done this before. Check the user's input is not blank or null. We've done this in the previous examples. Convert the user's input to an integer. We've done that before. Previous puzzles. Really between 1 and 10. So that'd be like greater than or equal to 1 and less than or equal to 10. If it is within 1 digit of the random number generated. Okay, tell them, oh, that'd be a bit more difficult, but that's probably an if statement inside of an if statement. Okay, this just otherwise just means else. Okay, I think we've kind of got an idea what we need to do here. Certainly it's getting more complicated, isn't it? Let's just generate the random number first. So this is called instantiation. We're instantiating the random variable. So we'll just create a number that's between 1 and 10. If I could type properly. Now, remember I was saying magic numbers, we should avoid magic numbers. This is actually a hard-coded magic number because we might want to change these. What if we want to change this to choose a number between 1 and 100? We'd have to come in here and change it. I know it's at the top, but imagine this is in a different file somewhere else, or there's multiple ones. They're all between 1 and 10. There's 50 of them. You might want to do something like this. It's 1. And then in all of these, we'd use this. So as long as we could have lots and lots of these, but we'd only have to change it here. If we wanted to change it to between 1 and 100, 1 and 100. Okay, that's kind of how I want you to think. We'll just put it back to normal just for simplicity's sake because it's such a small function. Okay, let's get the user's input. Copy and paste the prompt. And if you think this is complicated or not very clear, it's actually a good example of what senior developers are going to tell you to do in your developer job, because this might be a conversation. This might just be a series of commands they write down and they want you to go and write this code. So it's never going to be super duper clear unless they've taken time to make it clear. You might be running about with this sort of stuff and then you go back to them and we need to change this, blah blah blah. Get the user's input. Why does it keep doing that? I keep mistyping string. See, because of that's came up because I mistyped string. I bet you it's added an input. Yeah, so it's added an import at the top automatically, which we don't need. All because I can't type in string. There we go. Okay, so getting the user's input. Let's instantiate a guess. Let's make it 0. Okay, let's make it 0, and then let's do an if statement. And let's check, I think it's asking us to check if it's blank or null first. So we've done this before. If input does not equal blank space and input does not equal null. I know you're thinking, well, why even check for this? Because this console read line only generates blank space, it does not generate null. Okay, in this instance that's correct. We're just checking this and that's immediately above this line of code. But this might be in a separate function somewhere else, it might be in a separate file, it might not be checking a user's console input, it could just be checking a variable. And if the variable is not instantiated, it will be null by default. Unless you make it something, it will be null by default. Or it could get changed to null by another process if another process fails. So think of this as just a check, just a bit of validation to make sure we don't start processing stuff with null values. So let's change the guess from 0 to whatever the user's input is, because that's their guess, right? Now, you're kind of thinking, why didn't we just call input guess? Input's a string, guess is an integer. Let's keep it like that. Now afterwards, we're going to have to check if this would be between 1 and 10. So if guess is greater than or equal to 1 and guess is less than or equal to 10, do this code. So the next thing it's asking us is if it's within one digit of the random number generated, +1 or -1, tell them this. So okay, so if they've, let's just kind of stick with this at the moment. If it's not between 1 and 10, it's a failure condition, isn't it? If it's not between 1 and 10, we'll just do an else statement. We'll just tell them they have to choose a number between 1 and 10. Now, if they don't enter a number between 1 and 10, the program will end. I'll show you in later puzzles how we can keep this looping so the user just continuously gets prompted. For the moment, let's just tell them they've made an error and let's end the program. Also, there should be an else statement here, isn't there? Just saying something like error. Can't enter blank space. Now inside here, we're going to have to deal with this plus or minus. So we've got the number, which is the answer. The number is the answer. So we want to check, does the guess equal the answer? And if it does, let's just tell them, you know, bingo, correct guess even. Else if the guess is 1 greater than the number, the random number generated, or if the guess is less than 1 of the random number generated, we can tell them that statement. Yep, there we go. And again, we're using string interpolation and the $sign to get the number in there. Maybe I've called this number, maybe this should be called something else, that's fine. This off statement. So if the guess, so let's say we chose 2. 2 is between 1 and 10, so this is true, this is going to be run. If the number generated was 3, if this was randomly generated as 3, well, our guess of 2 does not equal 3, so this is not going to get run. It's going to continue down into the next else if statement, and it's going to say, does the guess equal the number plus 1? If the randomly generated number is 3, that's not going to run because that's going to be 4. But it's going to do the OR statement, and it's going to say, does our guess of 2 equal the random generated number 3 minus 1, which is 2? That's correct. So this is going to get run. And this is what I'm telling you about the OR statement. It can be quite confusing. you've got to kind of learn when to use or and when to use and. If it's or, this will be run if either of the statements is true. With and, both of them have to be true. And there can be more and or not. You can do or this or that. You can just chain them all together. So that's okay. And then, as always, do another else. Yeah, okay. Tell them it's a wrong number. So if they've chosen a number between 1 and 10, but it's not matching a randomly generated number, and it's not 1 either side of it, then, you know, thanks for playing. But the game is over. I think that's probably good enough. I think that would do it. I like as well putting if it's anything specifically to do with the if statement, I like putting it immediately above the if statement. You could put this up here in the magic numbers section. Okay, let's run the puzzles. Let's see how we did. I probably should have ran these one after another. Let's look at puzzle A. How many dead hookers does it take to change a light bulb? 2 dead hookers. Well, I know it's more than 7 because my basement's still dark. Okay, what if I enter, let's just play about with it. What if I enter a large number? Yeah, it's fine. Okay, puzzle B. Welcome to North Jersey Pizzeria. What would you like? You know what? I'd like number 4. It's not on the menu. I'll just choose 1, 2, or 3. Okay, so it got us there. Let's run through that one again. So let's choose my favourite lasagna. Would you like a regular or a large? Let's just enter a whole bunch of D characters. That better order something. Okay, let's run through it properly the full time. 3 again. I'd like a regular lasagna. Yeah, perfect. Puzzle number C. Let's go back down to it. A lot of scrolling to do. What number am I thinking of? It's between 1 and 10. Let's go for middle of the road, 5. Wrong, it was 9. Press enter to exit the program. Try it again. We'll try again. What we'll do is, to save us having to run puzzle A and puzzle B all the time, I'll comment them out. Also, I should probably start showing you how to do debugging, maybe in the next video. Let's do 4. Wrong, it was 6. I just want to do this again until we can get a correct answer, or I'll cheat. Wrong, it was 2. Okay, I'm going to cheat. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to comment this out. So it's not a random generator. I'm just going to do int number equals 5. I'm going to be a cheater. I'm going to run it. I'm going to type in 4, which should be within that plus or minus 1. Close out by 1. Number was 5. Okay, so it works. Get rid of that. Okay, so that was actually quite a lot. You've sort of went over again almost everything that you've used previously. You're playing about with strings, you're writing big long programs, you're copying and pasting. You're playing about with stuff. You know, I think if else, you're never going to get away from this. It's going to be there your whole career. Okay, next video I'll try to make them even more complicated, but you can see how you might even come up with solutions unlike mine. I mean, for puzzle C, you could quite easily write something quite different and it still produce these outputs, which is fine. As long as you get the outputs in the brief, that's fine. Everything else is just semantics and, you know, does it fit in with our team's coding style? Congrats for getting through puzzle 4. With that if-else conditional, you can do an awful lot of damage. You can make the computer do an awful lot of stuff. You've got everything now to make your own little basic text adventure game, I suppose. You get user inputs. Depending on the user input, you could do if and else. Probably need a lot more error checking and stuff in case the user types in the wrong thing, but you've got user input, and based on that user input you can make decisions and you can display text. So yeah, go away and write your own little Dungeons and Dragons program or whatever. I remember when I was in high school a long time ago, I'm actually quite old despite looking this youthful and beautiful. Well, using if-else statements, and I wrote my little text programs. But, you know, the language has changed, the code's changed a lot, but it's still the same sort of building blocks. Every language has got an if-else. As you'll notice if you check out my Python channel. Python's got an if-else as well, so has every other language. So don't get hung up on the syntax of these statements. Don't try to memorize every dot and dash and everything about it. Just remember the building blocks, because you're probably going to have several languages thrown at you in your career, but they all have if-else. I'll guarantee you they all have if-else. Thank you very much.